Hello everyone, welcome to Business Life. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Bank of Ghana targets 10% non-performing loan ratio by the end of next year, a move that could aid significant reduction in the cost of credit.
Interest rates is the coming period provides a window for intelligent loan restructuring to accelerate progress towards the 10% MPL benchmark, which we have given for the end of 2026 without weakening standards.
But how realistic is this projection? We shall be finding out soon. Also in this bulletin, influencers and crypto advocates advised to seek authorization from the Securities and Exchange Commission as well as the Bank of Ghana before going ahead with any endorsement or promotion of cryptocurrencies and other virtual tokens.
Please be reminded that there are rules concerning advocacy and influencing in the virtual asset space, and only licensed and authorized persons will be allowed to engage in advocacy, advertisement, or promotion in the virtual asset space.
We will also get to hear from the Bank of Ghana on the passage of the Virtual Asset Service Bill providers. Plus, $365 million IMF cash hits Bank of Ghana's account, a move expected to aid liquidity, city stability, and support for budget projects. We have details of these and more for you. Please stay on. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka. This evening, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, says he is determined to push interest rates below 10% in the coming days as part of efforts to support businesses and stimulate economic growth. Dr. Isiema made this known while speaking at the Bank of Ghana's 9 Lessons and Carol service.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, at the 9 Lessons and Carol service said, small and medium-sized enterprises, which form the backbone of the economy, are among the hardest hit by high interest rates, limiting their ability to expand operations and create jobs. He assured that while the central bank pursues lower interest rates, it remains committed to safeguarding macroeconomic stability.
From a macroeconomic perspective, you know the story already, how much meaningful progress we have made this year. Talking about economic growth, the figures speak for themselves. Talking about inflation, the figures speak for themselves. Talking about the currency, the figures talk for themselves. And talking about interest rates, I am on record to have said that I would want to see lending rates below 10% before the end of my tenure. And it is one thing I pray for each morning, that I can see interest rates below 10%, that our businesses can borrow below 10%, the youth of this country that are so innovative can borrow below 10% and do stuff for themselves. I believe we are on course already. When we came in, lending rates were beyond 30%. Currently, the GRR, that is the lowest rate at which you can borrow money. GRR is just around 15%.
Founder and presiding Archbishop of Action Chapel International, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, called on Ghanaians to cultivate a spirit of gratitude to God and to the people they work with, describing thankfulness as a key foundation for national growth and peaceful coexistence.
The Bible said, enter into his gates with thanksgiving. Why? Because thanksgiving is a statement and a declaration of one faith. It's a proclamation of your faith and of your trust in Almighty God, that you trust in God. It makes a statement. It's a statement of faith that God, I trust in you. For the Bible said, he that comes to God must believe that God is. God is. He is. And he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. You must believe that he is. So thanksgiving is an acknowledgement that God is.
The Bank of Ghana has expressed confidence that improving economic conditions and ongoing policy measures would make it possible to achieve the single-digit interest rate target, boosting investor confidence and strengthening Ghana's economic outlook.
Yeah, that was you.
Well, players in the banking sector are being encouraged to play more active roles in driving export-oriented growth, strengthening governance, and supporting ethical practices in the industry. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, at the Governors' Day and dinner emphasized that banks must align with the nation's drive for competitiveness, innovation, and regional integration.
The Institute of Bankers Governors' Day and dinner brings together banking leaders, regulators, and policymakers to discuss Ghana's financial sector. Speaking at the event, Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama urged banks to provide export-ready loans, build sector expertise, and support digital trade platforms, stressing that every export strengthens both the economy and the banking sector.
In the year ahead, we expect this momentum to deepen, with banks playing a more active role in financing export-oriented enterprises, managing trade risk, and helping firms move from domestic markets into regional and global value chains. The banking sector must not sit on the sidelines of Ghana's export agenda. You, as banks, you must help shape it. And this is the moment for banks to do more, to design export-ready loan products, to build sector-specific expertise, to support risk-sharing and hedging instruments, to invest in digital trade platforms, and actively work with exporters from production to payment.
Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Ghana, Robert Jato, highlighted the launch of the Ethics Certification Program and recognized banks that completed it. He underscored the sector's commitment to integrity, professionalism, and digital and financial literacy initiatives.
We are not saying these are the most ethical banks, far from that. We are saying those who took the ethics certification seriously. The end product, of course, will be the most ethical banks, if you like. So, to join us upstage is GCB Bank.
Banking leaders say 2026 will test the sector's readiness to support exporters, strengthen resilience, and uphold high ethical and professional standards as Ghana seeks to compete on global and regional markets.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has revealed that it is working to reduce the ratio of non-performing loans to 10% by the end of next year. It spoke at the same event.
Asset quality was addressed directly too. Elevated non-performing loans were treated as a systemic risk, not a background statistic. Banks were given clear timelines to reduce NPL ratios toward the prudential benchmark of 10% by end 2026. Loan restructuring was encouraged where appropriate, particularly as interest rates declined, to preserve viable credit relationships while confronting risk directly. Governance standards were also tightened deliberately and visibly, and boards were reminded that oversight cannot be symbolic. Local governance in foreign-owned institutions had to be strengthened, and expectations around outsourcing, data protection, and operational resilience were clarified and enforced. Asset quality will remain a priority for us. As interest rates ease, the coming period provides a window for intelligent loan restructuring to accelerate progress towards the 10% NPL benchmark, which we have given for the end of 2026 without weakening standards.
All right, let's have a conversation on the back of these projections by the Bank of Ghana. Joining us via Zoom is a senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amwa. Thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to speak to us on Business Live. And we are wondering whether this target really is realistic, given Ghana's current NPL ratio of around 14%. Which strategies would you say banks can deploy to meet this target by the end of next year?
Yes, the target of 10% is achievable, and it is something that the central bank itself has committed to. But the first point to deal with this problem or to achieve this target is for the banks to relook and help create good assets. The banks are the first point of call because the banks that create the loan facility. So if these banks have poor lending functions or poor lending strategies, then the NPLs are most likely to occur. Now, the central bank is coming in to lead the charge, as we heard from the governor. This will mean that the central bank will provide some support to help the banks deal with the non-performing loans that is confronting the industry. How would that be done? First, the central bank will have to, in addition to some of the strategies that they are currently deploying, will have to create what we call or permit the establishment of asset management companies. Asset management companies are, like you can call it, companies that will acquire these troubled loans from the banks and manage, right? So the central bank should allow that to happen. Then again, at the macro level, the central bank can also create what we call the National Asset Management Company, which is at national level. It's like a state-owned enterprise, what we call a bad bank in quote. What a bad bank will do is that the bad bank will feed on the eligible bank asset. These are loans that the commercial banks have created, and they appear to be struggling. Then the National Asset Management Company will buy it, manage it, and take that burden off the bank so that the banks will concentrate on their core function.
All right. So,
in addition to that, too, I believe that the go on.
Finish up for me, sir.
Okay. So, in addition to that, the central bank can also restrict the lending or the sectors that are posing challenges to the banks. If the central bank realizes that some of the sectors in the economy are overheating and it's creating problems for the banks in terms of loan management, the central bank will restrict the banks so that the banks will not venture into such areas that are problematic. Even in some cases too, the central bank must be bold, if possible, and then also change the management of some of these banks that are creating these bad loans. The central bank should be bold to do that. If there's a need for management change, the central bank must insist on that so that we can use some of these systems, in addition to what they have, to manage and to achieve that 10% or below 10% target that the central bank is seeking to do. So it's achievable.
Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Benjamin Moore. We shall leave the conversation here and, of course, come to you subsequently in other bulletins. Pleasure speaking to us on Business Live. Now, let's pause for a breather. We'll be back with more. Hello again. Welcome back to Business Live. Influencers and crypto advocates have been advised to seek authorization from the Securities and Exchange Commission as well as the Bank of Ghana before going ahead with any endorsement or promotion of cryptocurrencies and other virtual tokens. According to SEC, failure to do so will warrant heavy sanctions. Here's more from the National Virtual Asset Literacy Program organized for virtual asset market operators.
The Virtual Assets and Service Providers Bill, popularly known as the Crypto Bill, was passed on December 19, 2025, providing the first comprehensive legal framework for digital assets in the country. According to the Bank of Ghana, the bill, which is yet to receive presidential assent, will undergo various stakeholder engagements and literacy sessions before it is operationalized. Speaking at the maiden National Virtual Asset Literacy Program organized for virtual asset market operators, Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mensa Thompson, revealed that influencers and all crypto advocates will need authorization to carry out any form of advertisement or advisory services.
Please be reminded that there are rules concerning advocacy and influencing in the virtual asset space, and only licensed and authorized persons will be allowed to engage in advocacy, advertisement, or promotion in the virtual asset space. And there are consequences for this breach. And so we want to send this message to you that if you want to work in that space as an influencer, take steps to contact the SEC and the Bank of Ghana for the rules that guides that.
He further disclosed that regulatory guidelines will soon be rolled out to ensure the seamless adoption of cryptocurrencies and other virtual assets.
We're working on the guidelines very soon. We're waiting for the president to sign the bill. Once the bill is signed, the guidelines will be published, because the guidelines will be dependent on the bill. But let me say that this is one of the most extensively consultative law Ghana has ever passed. It took us 1 year to develop this crypto law. In fact, this is the only bill that we had to do a pre-laying engagement with the Finance Committee of Parliament even before the bill went to the House. And so this bill has seen extensive consultation.
Although participants at the program commended the Bank of Ghana for its proactive role in the development of the bill, concerns were raised about the implementation of the framework. Kofi Adakwe is a software engineer and the participant.
Crypto is complex, and it is up to the VASPs or the virtual asset service providers to provide a layer that makes it more accessible, to everyone. And in order to be able to do that, we need guidelines in order to be able to operate as a virtual service asset, provider. This is a different asset. It's not your banking asset, right? Traditional finance and crypto finance are a bit different. They are very different.
Some of our lead stories: about $365 million of the International Monetary Fund cash has hit the Bank of Ghana's account today. This was after the IMF board passed the country's fifth program review last week in Washington, D.C., USA. More in this report.
Sources say the disbursement was done immediately after the IMF board approved the fifth program review on December 17, 2025. However, due to some bank clearance issues, the funds were credited to the Bank of Ghana's account today. Some have argued that the immediate impact of this will be the fact that it will offer government some extra cash to finance projects identified in the 2025 budget. And this is because the primary aim of the disbursement under the IMF program is more to finance budget-related projects than primarily to support Ghana's reserves. However, the Bank of Ghana will take the money and give the cedi equivalent, the dollars received, to the Finance Minister, Dr. Atuforson, to spend on some projects identified in the 2025 budget. Some market analysts have sought to downplay the impact of this disbursement on Ghana's reserves, especially when the Bank of Ghana's reserves are estimated to reach $13 billion or even more at the end of 2025. However, there are some who have also maintained that it could go a long way to improve the liquidity on the market at a time that the cedi is recovering strongly after recent.
And that's all we have for you by way of Business Life. I am Pius Kojo Baka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business.